Dear Jimmy Page, my name is Terry Keating from the Chicago area. I want to ask, here's the thing, honest to God, it's seriously a Dear Jimmy Page video. Not that maybe you'll ever see it. But here's the plan. I have an idea, okay? If you remember this, I'm sure you've seen this, okay? And of course this is also addressed to Robert Plant and of course the venerated John Paul Jones. But Jimmy Page is the producer, so I have to go right to that. You know what I'm saying? Here is the Complete Beatles Recording Sessions. Wonderful book. I had an original copy that I gave to a friend and never got back. And this is a reissue. This is a great book. If you've never seen it, which I'm sure you have. But essentially what happened was, as far as I understand it, somebody who worked at EMI or Abbey Road had cancer. So I think what happened was that they kept him on. He said, well, I'm sick. And they said, well, we'll keep you on. We'll pay you just to stick around. He's like, well, I got to do something. I think what he did was, if I recall properly, went through all the old Beatles tapes and the notes that were on the boxes and stuff, and the notes they had, or maybe a couple of recollections, and essentially wrote sort of like a recording, like a studio diary, except after the fact, of like dates, times. More like, not that that's so important, but you know what they did was, well, they recorded the basic track of this, and then they did a reduction of that, and then they made like an acetate or whatever of this. So my point is this. This is terrific, and I love the Beatles. I'm surprised more bands do this. Don't do this, but here's the plan. I think you should have somebody do one of these for you, for a couple reasons. One, it would make so many Zeppelinophiles like myself very happy, but also audiophiles very happy too, because part of the Zeppelin mystique. Of course, I make Bonham videos here on John Bonham's drum parts, but at least as far as I'm concerned, you know, so much of the Zeppelin appeal too is the sonic quality of the recordings, which I still have yet to, by and large, ever hear reproduced. Anyway, my point is this: if you could do something like that, you'd make a ton of people happy. But importantly, too, it would also sell. It would. I guarantee you know, with all the box sets and remasters and stuff you did, you'd probably need something. I'll bet you could probably fill like maybe 3 or 4 of these. Not that, well, I mean, there's a lot of pictures in here, too. You could put pictures in, too. You know, pictures from the studio that maybe people have when you guys were at Olympic Studios. You know, it's really neat that, you know, in the Rolling Stones, there's that footage of them in that French director did, Sympathy for the Devil movie or whatever that came out 10 or 15 years ago. That footage of them in Olympic. And you, of course, in this day and age, you could do a multimedia thing. You could have a few of these guys, and then also like video accompaniment, or a video where you might sort of like a technical, like a sonic technical documentary, as it were, for the recordings. Okay, so now I know that in part of the allure of the Zeppelin mystique is sort of like you keep everything sort of, you know, close to the chest. But there's another reason why I'm asking for this too, apart from my selfish Led Zeppelinophile audiophilic reasons. On behalf of, even though nobody's asked me to do this, this is my channel, and I have this platform, and I'm just doing it anyway. Is in this day and age where music has taken the turn again for a long time now, even back in the 80s it had, but just all this pop. Everything's recorded the same way, into Pro Tools, into auto-tune, quantization. The neat thing you did, and a lot of other people did back in the day, of course. But you, you know, I think you're at least the person I'm asking, because I'm such a Zeppelin-phile. Is the art of actually capturing the sound is gone. I think gone. I mean, you'll still get it on jazz records and stuff, but I always say to people, it's like you wouldn't record, you know, so often now, and even in the 70s it was, you put a drum kit up and you put, you know, 11 mics on the drums, you know, put a couple SD, what are the 421s on the toms, and like a, you know, D112, or at least modern times, on the bass drum, and then a couple 57s on the snare, like totally close mic'd. And then they back a room sound kind of into it. Whereas at least what I can tell from your recordings, you start with sort of a room sound, and then sort of touch that up with closer mics. That's my take. But what I'm getting at is, in this day and age too, with the resurgence of like Guitar Hero and Rock Band and stuff, younger kids, younger people are really coming into what, you know, the term like classic rock like the whole classic rock mojo. Okay? So what I'm saying is a whole part of that is also the way it's captured. Not just the song you write, or the solo that's on there, but the actual sound of the recording. And that's never been lost on me. I mean, God knows I've never been happy going to the studio recording my stuff. Rarely. But anyway, so I think if you were to do something like that, you would definitely, you'd certainly make money doing it. But you'd please a whole bunch of Zeppelinophiles, audiophiles, but you also might help save rock and roll. At least very much so, like shore it back up and kind of get it back on its source. I always say to people, like, you wouldn't record the Mormon Tabernacle Choir in a dead room with a microphone on each person and then add some reverb in a little box to it, right? Or you wouldn't record them one at a time and then, you know, and put it together. You'd put them in a proper place like Mormonville or in a church with a few mics, and you get the whole ambient recording, right? And it's not, honestly, it's not necessary. I mean, there's styles of music, obviously, that benefit more from a dead recording, but I think the style and personality of a true, an acoustic electric recording. I mean, obviously not just the drums, but you do it with guitars, you do it. There's not really I think a template or sort of a guideline on how to really go after that sound. A lot of people claim they have it. Well, you go in a room and just put a mic over, but I never really hear it. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of having to do with, you know, certain preamps and compression, and also just mic placement. And I just think if you were to do that, it would be very helpful to the state of music in its current form today. And then also assisting that would be the whole thing of, you know, the old days of just getting a bunch of takes and sort of putting it together, maybe, you know, clipping, or just run through straight up from beginning to end, instead of sort of feeding everything into quantizing everything. It's, you know, and I've gone into this whole quantizing thing, definitely with certain styles of music it works and people are used to it. But I always say, with, you know, when you make something 100% perfect, instantly you snap it, like the life is kind of sucked out of it. A certain, I mean, not entirely across the board, obviously people buy records that's quantized all the time. But I think a lot of these folks have never really learned or appreciated the art of a true organic analog recording. When I say analog, I don't necessarily mean it has to be recorded to tape. I'm just saying that it's played by humans and sort of kept in that universe before it gets put into a computer and fixed. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's my suggestion. That's my advice. That's not advice. That's my appeal. That's begging you. I think it would be a great idea, okay? So again, for reference, if you want to score one of these, I'm sure you've seen it. I mean, you are Jimmy Page, for the love of God. But I mean, it's really neat. Okay, for example, 1967, Thursday, January 19. Studio 2, recording in the life of, working title of A Day in the Life. Takes 1 to 4. Producer, George Martin. Engineer, Jeff Emmerich. Second engineer, Phil McDonald. Okay, take one of Day in the Life, used just 2 of the 4 available tracks, basic rhythm section, track 1 and a heavily echoed Lennon vocal, you know, that type of thing. Do you know what I mean? I really think you'd kill several birds with one stone. You'd help, I think, steer, or at least reintroduce the concept of organic recording. Again, it doesn't, you don't necessarily have to record it to tape. I'm just saying more on the front end of it, of actually tracking it and getting the basic nature of the recording in an organic, cleverly and properly caught in the first place, a nice full presence recording, and then to whatever medium. And in this day and age, a lot of younger people, younger engineers, younger producers might really be like, wow, I mean, you'd really kind of bring it back, I think, or at least inject into the minds of a lot of younger people, sort of get it in their faces, or at least get it in their brains and be like, huh, do you know what I mean? But two, and selfishly, for Zeppelinophiles like me and audiophiles, it would be absolutely majestic. So again, so let me say this let me pull this out for the 3rd time, or is it the 4th? Get your hands on one of these guys, or at least, you know, I'm sure you've seen it. Go through this guy. I mean, you could have anybody help you. I mean, there's tons of people that'd kill to do it. They'd probably pay to do it. God knows if you need an assistant for anything, I'll hook you up. So that's my appeal. asking kindly from Middle America, suburbs of Chicago, where it's freaking cold. Although we have now I think it's like 24 degrees today, which is warmer than usual past couple weeks. So hope everything's smooth with you and yours. Of course, to Robert Plant and to John Paul Jones. Of course, I mean no disrespect by addressing this to Jimmy Page, but Jimmy Page is the producer. Okay, he's the keeper of the magic of the, you know what I'm saying. So, and to everybody else, if you see this, this is a straight up. I'm not kidding about this appeal. I know it might be pathetic. Like, oh, this guy's 45-year-old in his basement begging Jimmy Page, but you know somebody's got to do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm fortunate enough to have my channel. I think I have like 12,000 subscribers. People kind of do see this. So yes, I'm actually trying to use this to just get it out there. It's a little portal, I think, out into the world that I am fortunate enough on YouTube to have, thanks to my people who enjoy my videos. So, and everyone else, thanks for watching. And Jimmy Page, if you do see this, God love you. Okay? And please give it some consideration. Thank you.